The laugh was the part I couldn't explain away. Not a polite laugh, not a nervous one. The kind that escapes before someone remembers they're in public. Short, sharp, and gone in half a second. But I heard it. And the worst thing about hearing it was that I understood exactly what it meant. My name is Daniel Rowe. I was 34, a senior analyst at a mid-sized logistics company in Columbus, and I had just been told in a Thursday afternoon meeting that I was being promoted to operations director. My boss shook my hand. Two colleagues congratulated me, and Mara Voss, who sat two desks over and had wanted that position for the better part of 2 years, laughed once under her breath like she'd just heard the punchline of a joke the rest of us hadn't caught yet. Then she smiled. Wide, practiced, the kind you build when your real face isn't safe to show. Congratulations, Daniel, she said. I said thank you. We both pretended the laugh hadn't happened. That should have been the end of it. Mara and I had been competing for the same invisible finish line since she joined the company 3 years earlier. Not openly. Nobody calls it competition when they're inside it. They call it ambition, professional drive, high standards. But we both knew what it was. Same projects assigned to both of us, same performance reviews used as measuring sticks, same conference room where we sometimes had the exact same idea in the exact same meeting and watched each other notice. She was good. That was the hardest part. I couldn't dismiss her as someone who'd gotten lucky or networked her way up. Mar worked 18-hour days when the quarter got ugly. She remembered every client's name, every contract detail, every deadline. She was the kind of person who made you sharper just by being nearby, because you couldn't afford to be lazy around someone who never was. But she was also the kind of person who once forwarded an email I hadn't finished editing to our VP, with a note that said, "Just wanted to make sure this reached you in time." Polite, surgical, the kind of move that doesn't leave fingerprints. So we were civil, careful, the way two people are when they respect each other too much to be friends and know each other too well to be enemies. The promotion changed the temperature in the room between us. For 2 days after the announcement, she was professional, distant in the exact measured way that tells you someone is working very hard at seeming normal. She answered my emails. She attended the transition briefing. She said the right things to the right people. Then on Saturday, she texted me. I know this probably sounds strange, but I'd like to buy you a drink, just to clear the air. No agenda. I stared at the message for longer than I needed to. No agenda was the kind of thing people said when they had one, but something made me agree. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the fact that I'd been carrying that laugh around for 2 days like a splinter I couldn't reach. She chose a bar near the office. Small, quiet, the kind of place where conversations don't carry. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a glass of red wine and the careful posture of someone who had rehearsed the opening. I almost canceled 3 times, she said when I sat down. What stopped you? The fourth time, I didn't let myself. I ordered a beer. She looked at the table, then back at me, and I saw something I hadn't expected in her expression. Not strategy, something closer to exhaustion. I laughed, she said. In the meeting. I need you to know I'm aware of that. I kept my face neutral. I heard it. I know you did. Her jaw tightened slightly. I'm not going to pretend it was nothing. It was a reflex. A bad one. The kind you don't forgive yourself for quickly. That was not what I had prepared for. I had prepared for a polished explanation, a reframe. Some version of what I meant was, not a straight admission sitting across from me with no armor on. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She turned her wine glass slowly. Because I've been the person in offices who gets talked around and smiled at and quietly managed, and I spent years trying to become someone that didn't happen to anymore. A pause. And then I did exactly that to you, in front of people, and you didn't say a word. What was I supposed to say? Nothing. That's the point. She looked at me. You didn't make me pay for it in the room. You could have. I could have. The thought had occurred to me at the time and then again several times since. Why didn't you want the drink to be a celebration? I asked. You said clearing the air, not celebrating. She looked almost surprised. Because celebrating felt dishonest. I'm not happy about the outcome. I wanted it. I worked for it. I still think. She stopped herself. Started again. I think you'll do the job well. But I won't lie to you and say it didn't cost me something. That sentence had the weight of something true. I leaned back. I've spent 3 years watching you work, you know that? I know. That email you forwarded. The Hartley contract. She closed her eyes briefly. I know. I never said anything about it. I know that too. Her voice had gone quieter. I told myself it was just business, just smart positioning. I was good at believing that for a while. The bar was filling up slowly. Someone laughed loudly near the door, and neither of us looked away from the conversation. What do you want from tonight? I asked. She thought about it. Actually thought, not performed thinking. I want to stop being enemies with someone I actually respect, even if we never become anything more than people who work in the same building, without dreading Mondays. That was honest enough to be uncomfortable. I understood it the way you understand something you felt yourself but never said out loud. I'd spent 3 years sharpening my performance against hers. choosing projects partly because I knew she'd want them, arriving early some mornings because I knew she was already there. Competition does something to a person. It makes you better in the ways that can be measured and smaller in the ways that can't. The laugh, I said. She met my eyes. I don't think it was cruelty. Her expression changed. Not relief. More like being seen doing something you didn't want witnessed. No, she said softly. It wasn't. It was grief, maybe, for something I'd been chasing a long time. And grief doesn't always come out clean. I thought about that. There are things that happen in offices that people never say plainly. The quiet cost of wanting something badly, publicly, and not getting it. The way a career can feel personal even when everyone tells you it isn't. The way watching someone else win the thing you built yourself toward can crack something open that you didn't know was fragile until the exact wrong moment. I had won, but I understood the version of that evening she had lived through. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay, buy me a drink. Actually, buy me one. Not as an apology, not as an agenda. I picked up my empty glass. As two people who've been too busy competing to notice they might actually be on the same side. For a second, she didn't move. Then the practiced smile faded entirely, and something real replaced it. Quieter, less perfect, better. I forwarded that email because I was scared, she said. I want you to know that. Not excusing it, just the truth. I know, I said. I was scared too. That's why I noticed. She waved the bartender over. We stayed for 2 hours. We talked about the job, the company, the unglamorous parts of both. She told me about a project she'd been quietly building a case for that nobody had greenlit yet. I told her it had potential and meant it. She told me I'd need someone who understood the operational gaps I was inheriting. Neither of us said what we were both probably thinking, that we'd wasted 3 years being opponents when we could have been something more useful to each other. We walked out into the November cold at 10 o'clock. The street was quiet. She pulled her coat tighter and looked at me. That could have gone worse, she said. Most things do. Her mouth curved, the real one again. For what it's worth, Daniel, you earned it. So did you, I said. Different job, different year, but you earned the version that's coming. She looked at me for a moment. Then she nodded once. Small, but solid. We went our separate directions. On Monday, she knocked on my new office door and asked if I wanted to hear her proposal on the infrastructure project. I said yes. She sat down, opened her notebook, and for the first time in 3 years, neither of us was performing for an audience of one. Competition had sharpened us, but it had cost us something too. The chance to build something bigger than either of us could alone. Mara became my most valuable collaborator, not because the rivalry disappeared, but because we finally aimed it at the same problems instead of each other. The laugh that started it all sat in a room full of people who forgot it in a week, but the conversation that came after changed every working day that followed. Sometimes the people who push you hardest are the ones who, given one honest evening, become the people who stand beside you. Have you ever had a work rival surprise you when the competition finally ended? Tell me your story in the comments. If this one meant something to you, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.